What's up, world? Welcome to another episode in the CI series of Cut to the Chase. Today we are going to set up Jenkins, Prometheus, and Grafana in under 3 minutes. Make sure you have Docker installed. If not, please follow the link video. Let's start with Jenkins. First, let's define a Docker file to describe the base image to be used for it and also the plugins to use for our service. So in this case, I need Jenkins to have the Prometheus plugin to be installed. Now, let's create a Docker Compose file to define the Docker container to be made. Here we are defining the service Jenkins, which is built from the Docker file which is under the current folder and with the name Docker file. Under ports, we can define host to container port mapping. Here this means the container's port 8080 can be accessed through the port 7080 on my host machine. Next, we are mounting a folder from the host to the container. This makes it easy for you to back up your container specific data. So let's create a folder to mount. Now add this folder or its parent folder under file sharings in Docker settings. This way Docker will have permission to access that directory. Now let's use the compose file to bring up the Jenkins container. I'm providing the -d flag so that the container will run in the background. You can see that the container is created and is now accessible through the port 7080. Similar to Jenkins, let's make a separate folder for Prometheus and create a Docker file in it. I'm using the version 2.27.0. As we don't need any other add-on as of now, let's move on to Docker Compose. Here we will define a second service Prometheus. First, let's define the path and name of the Docker file to build the image. Now, under port mapping, make sure the host port that you provide is an unused one. And finally, define the directory to mount to the container. To have a better structure, I'm moving my Jenkins Docker file to a separate folder. Let's also define a name for each service using the container name property to properly distinguish between each service container. Now, just like how we did it for Jenkins and Prometheus, let's set up Grafana. So we'll create a separate subfolder and also a Docker file. I'm using the version 7.3.0. If you want to install any plugins, you can directly mention them here in this Docker file, so it will build an image with the plugins installed. So in this case, we don't need it. So let's jump back to the Docker Compose file. Similar to the other two services, let's define the build variable to provide the path and name of the Docker file to build the image. Provide the port mapping. Again, make sure the host port you provide is unused, or else Docker Compose operation will fail. Define the folder to mount from the host, and finally define the container name. To make our containers more durable, let's also add a restart policy. I'm setting it to always so it will restart on its own unless explicitly stopped. So let's run Docker Compose again to bring up all three services together. Now let's connect Prometheus to Jenkins. For this, modify the Prometheus YAML file as shown. With this, we can run Docker Compose restart to restart all the services. Once it's through, first let's access Jenkins with the credentials, admin, and the value in the file initial admin password. Once you log in, under configure system settings, you can see that the Prometheus settings are available. Now in Prometheus, you can see that the Jenkins target state is up. Let's jump to Grafana. You can use admin as both username and password here. And from under settings, select data sources. Add a Prometheus data source. Under URL, provide the container name and port of Prometheus. Test the source and save. Now let's find a template board to visualize the data we received from Jenkins. You can find many templates from the Grafana website. Once you download in Grafana, under the plus option, select import to upload the JSON file. Now you should be able to see the data exposed from Jenkins through Prometheus visualized on Grafana. I hope this video was helpful to you. If you're building up your own CI system, make sure you try this out. Leave your questions or feedback down below in the comments. If you want more similar content, make sure you like and subscribe. Peace.